Okay, hello everybody. Good. Let's see now. Good afternoon from everybody from Saskatchewan East, and good morning to everybody Alberta and West. Thanks for joining us today on our renovation outlook for 2025 and beyond. Really pleased to be joined today by Keith Kristalovich. Got that right, Keith? Yeah.
Very, very good.
Yeah, our the VP of Education and Training and Partnerships at PHBI, and when we flip over to Keith, I'll let him tell us a little bit more about what he's doing. And Sarah Caron, who hopefully, or Karen, I guess, on our staff here at CHBA, our Director of Renovators Services, and hopefully a familiar face for most of you on the renovation side of things. So, and of course, I'm Kevin Lee, CEO here at CHBA National. Thanks for joining us. Just a little bit of housekeeping. Of course, we have everybody muted for sound quality, and so there's no distractions. But it is an interactive webinar, so if you want to place questions as we go, throw them into the Q&A section, and we'll be monitoring those. We'll might tackle some of those as we go along, and if not as we go along, then when we're done, we can get back to some of those questions. And we always get asked about will the webinar be available, the recording, and the answer is yes. We usually have those up in 24 hours or less, so you can watch it as many times as you like and also pass it on to any of your colleagues who might be interested in watching. So without further ado, I think one of the things we wanted to get started with was just a couple of poll questions so we can get a sense of who's with us today. So if you could go ahead and click there, what best describes your discipline or profession. We'll get a sense of who's joining us today, be you renovator, custom home builder. I recognize many of you might be both. So pick one, pick your favorite one. Trade contractor, supplier, and we always have staff from different HBAs joining us.
We've got the results coming in right now. I'll just end this. Should see those on your screen.
Great. So we've got a nice mix of renovators and custom home builders and suppliers. So great. Welcome. Thanks for letting us know we've got the right crew on board here. And then just to give us a sense of where you're chiming in from, whether I got the good mornings or good afternoons, right? Let us know about conducting business. Where are you right now? And we're back to normal for our Canadian housing markets and renovation markets, where we've got a pretty diversified market across the country. Through COVID, everybody was kind of doing bad initially and then going gangbusters. But with markets being what they are in Canada and economies being what we are seeing that regional variation now. So what's our regional variation on the call today, Sarah? All right. That actually pretty closely represents our membership, although good representation from BC today. Good for you guys, overrepresenting statistically. So good morning to you folks. All right, so with that, we will get moving here. We're just going to start off. I'll just do a little bit of a rundown on what we're doing at the national level on behalf of renovators. You know, we do a ton of government relations and other work, of course, on your behalf. We'll focus a little bit right now on the GR side of things that we do for our 2,000 renovator and trade contractor member companies within the association. And you guys know, and we always start off our government relations work with the impact of our industry and how important it is. So big numbers, over $100 billion in economic investment by Canadians, and lots of jobs and lots of wages. So a hugely important part of our industry. And when I think about sort of the most important thing that has affected our industry and something we've been really focusing on, it's really been interest rates. And so working with the Bank of Canada, as we flip to the next slide, has really been critical for us. And we got another very important announcement today with another drop of a half a point for the overnight lending rates. This has been huge for us. We've really used our housing market index, which is based on new construction, but that's really been a door opener for us to talk about how tough it's been for the industry over the past couple of years, and we meet as a result. We've been meeting very regularly with the Bank of Canada, pretty much before every rate announcement, and in fact, we just got the invite today to meet with them again now early in the new year after today's announcements as they think about what to do next. So we speak about what's going on in terms of starts. We speak about the effects all across the industry, including renovation, and how tough it has been, and the importance of bringing down those interest rates as quickly as possible. In some other work that we've been doing, more on the tax credit front. Hopefully, all of you are familiar with our work on adaptive home and really working on ways to train and have our members recognized who are specializing in this area. But we've also been very active on pushing for tax breaks for people who want to do this types of renovations. So a few years ago, we got the home accessibility tax credit built into the tax system. It was then more recently doubled. And then the other tax credit that we got last year was this multi-generational renovation tax credit, and frankly, they're all stackable too. So there's a fair amount of tax break that can. I mean, we know these renovations can be expensive, but every little bit helps. So that's part of the work we've been doing on the advocacy side. And in a similar vein, on the energy side, of course, we've been big advocates for doing all we can to support Canadians to make changes to their homes from a retrofit side of things. The Green Home Initiative was something that we were keen to have. We've always thought there should be ongoing tax credits for green renovations, energy efficient renovations, and we'll continue to push for those. We've always felt like home energy labeling should be an important part of helping homeowners make smart decisions, and actually increase the recognized value of their home by having a label. So we're pleased to see money that's been allocated to support more home energy labeling. And another thing that we're actually calling for is, as we look to do more deep energy retrofits, and in our case, with our net zero and net zero ready retrofit programming that we have, we've been advocating that these should qualify for substantial renovations and qualify for the GST HST new housing rebate, which currently have to basically be knocking down 90% of your house. But we know the cost of moving to this level can be pretty exorbitant, and so we're really advocating that this should be something that gets introduced. So hopefully you're following our net zero programming, and we've got quite a bit going on for renovation right now, and a very interesting pilot project going on as well. And we do have a standard there. So hopefully those of you who are in this space are finding that useful. Another thing we've been really working on is trying to get all levels of government to support more infill, more additional of secondary suites, either within houses, where you're sort of creating apartments, if you will. It could be a basement apartment, could be turning something into a multiplex, or accessory dwelling units. So we've been advocating for that, both from a zoning and working with our provincial and local governments, but also saying we need some help. We need some financial help. So in the budget, there was an announcement that that low interest loans would be provided, which was good for secondary suites. And unfortunately, and we told them right away, $40,000 wasn't going to cut it. You're not going to get much on that front. So just yesterday, we were pleased to see that has now been doubled to 80,000. Still, in many cases, won't cover the full cost, but it's a good chunk, and the rates are pretty attractive at 2% for over a 15-year term. So we continue to do a bunch of work on that. And also related to this, and probably even more substantial because you can just get access to more money. On our next slide, we can talk about what we got in terms of the the recent announcement this fall, where on the insured mortgage side of things, where you can now insure to 30 years, which is great, but you could access up to 90% of the value of your home to finance the construction of a secondary suite. And so that becomes quite substantial. And the it can go up to $2 million in terms of refinancing. So quite a bit there for those looking to renovate and create additional in-law suites, laneway homes, etc. So good steps in the right direction there. Moving on, in terms, we know labor is a huge issue, of course, and in some provinces right now, things are slow, and that's a challenge because we're potentially losing workers to other industries and that, and we're concerned about getting them back. In other places where the market is going better, there's already tight labor markets, and we know it's tough to get Canadians working in the space and find workers. So we've been working a lot with the federal government and pushing them to do more and more. There was the Canadian Apprenticeship Service, which is now winding up, but there's also a new initiative to promote skilled trades awareness. We're also heavily involved in different activities right now. We just met last week with Employment and Social Development Canada. They're trying to put in place a workforce development plan for housing. So we're informing that. We're also looking for some pretty substantial change to the immigration system. So we've been very active with Immigration Canada to try and get them to really change the way they do their point system and the like to really enable us to get more workers into the country to support construction, both on the new side and on the renovation side. So much more to come on that, and that'll be a big focus for us moving forward. And I know Keith's going to speak to some of the statistics that we talk about and the challenges for getting renovation workers. Um, we've also been engaged with StatsCan. We have such a shortage of data when it comes down to getting into the granularity we need to make smart policy and program decisions in Canada. So there's now a new residential renovation price index, and we were involved in helping out with the design of that and the coverage as we consulted with StatsCan last year. So we were pleased to see that out in the market. And as a result of that, to no surprise, we know how much prices have gone up with respect to the cost of doing a renovation, and we're also concerned that what this is showing is although total dollars are up a little bit this year for depending on how you measure it, there's different ways to measure it. We know that numbers of projects are down a little bit, and most of the increase is due, frankly, to inflation of prices, not more renovation activity. So it's giving us another way to do our advocacy and inform government about where they need to go. Um, Moving on, the other thing I wanted to touch base, there's a lot of talk about tariffs these days, but I wanted to remind people that this is something that we do get engaged in. And especially a few years ago, there was the big fight was on in terms of drywall tariffs that the Canadian government was looking to put in place. We had those walked back considerably in ways that the legal industry said and acknowledged had never been done before in terms of how fast we got it done in the process. It was quite impressive. We're still saving $300 million a year in Western Canada, and really 300 million in Eastern Canada because it easily could have crept east, which it didn't. And we again successfully defended those from going up in 2023. On to the next slide. People think of 30-year AMs as really being for new construction, and we are pleased that all new construction will now qualify for 30-year AMs under insured mortgages, which we couldn't before. It was limited to 25 on the insured mortgage side. Just wanted to remind everybody that, this can have a big impact for renovation as well. We know the market is big for when people are looking to sell their home and fixing things up beforehand, and then probably even a bigger market afterwards for when people move in and want to make changes. So hopefully creating opportunity there, as well as with more first-time buyers of existing homes now eligible for 30-year AMs in the existing housing market. That means more move-up buyers, and move-up buyers into the existing market also tend to be even bigger spenders on the renovation front. So that's something for not just new construction, but also for renovators. And we are still calling for a renovation tax credit for first-time buyers for when first-time buyer buys that fixer-upper. Great, they can get a 30-year AM now, but now they need to be able to finance the renovations that they'd like to do. And so we're calling for that still. The last thing I'll say about our GR work is that we're engaged in using the 30-year AM as an example. We're constantly in the media, constantly engaged on Parliament Hill. And just in this example, after we got that win on 30 Rams, I was on Power and Politics and speaking with the host there, David. The next day on our next slide, he ended up having the Minister of Housing, Minister Fraser, there, and he talked about actually he pointed to Minister Fraser and said, "Well, I had Kevin Lee on yesterday, and he was talking about the major shortage we have in workers, and 22% are retiring, and what are you doing about that?" And Minister Fraser actually, before answering that question, said, actually CHBA is providing invaluable advice on what the federal government is now rolling out. So hopefully we'll do a good job for you, continue to do a good job for you. Always happy to take feedback on what more you would like to see, but that gives a sense on the GR side of what we're rolling out for renovators. And with that, I can pass it on to Keith. And Keith, maybe you can tell us a little bit about yourself and PHBI, and then give us your insights on what we see coming for renovators in the coming year.
All right, great. Thanks, Kevin. Appreciate that. And thanks everyone for coming to the webinar today. Just like Kevin said, I thought it'd be great to maybe just start with introducing myself, talk a little bit about who I am, what I do. I'm Keith Kristalovich. I'm a member of the senior leadership team of the Alberta New Home Warranty Program group of companies. My official title is the Vice President of Education and Training Partnerships. Our group of companies includes a new home warranty and renovation warranty division that underwrites in Alberta and Western Canada, a home inspection division, and an education division. And my responsibilities include overseeing the education division, which is PHBI. So some of you are probably wondering, why is Keith involved in an Outlook for Renovators webinar? Well, I'd like to begin this part of the presentation by officially disclosing that I'm not an economist. So if you're looking for economic advice or direction, I'm sorry I'm not going to be able to help you today. However, the reason I am here is that our education division has been doing some extensive research and study of the renovation industry for some time. We know it's a growing industry, and we know because of this growth, it's going to need support in regards to education and training opportunities, not to mention it's catching the attention of government and the general public. And I know the CHBA has been doing a really good job, as Kevin has mentioned, on a lot of fronts on advocacy and programming that they're seeking for this part of the industry. Our amazing research team that does have the connectivity to applicable economics and economists and government institutions has been able to assemble all in one place, I might add, which is really hard to find for the renovation sector, some great information, trends, and opportunities for those participating or seeking to participate in the renovation industry. And for those that attended the OHBA, Ontario Home Builders Association conference back in September, and then happened to attend our renovator session, we shared some of this data with that group and on a provincial scale. I was able to connect with Sarah at that conference and mentioned we'd happy to share this information and data on a national aggregated version of scale. So here I am. So thank you guys again for coming. We're happy to share what we have found, and hopefully there'll be some takeaways from everybody that attended today. So we'll jump right in, Sarah, from there. So today's our research, a lot of it is reflective of some of the stuff that Kevin has already talked about, but it will go into a little bit maybe more deeper. Warning, disclaimer, again, it's a lot of data heavy information here, but we'll take you guys through it and tell you what we think of what we found, and hopefully there's some good takeaways. So we're going to talk about the current state. We're going to talk about some opportunities that we have identified, and we're going to talk about the long-term outlook. So for those that don't know, the Canadian residential renovation and maintenance and repair sector, it represents $103 billion in Canada. Together, renovations, maintenance, and repair are larger than a new home construction market. As Kevin had indicated, and some of us are very much aware, the value of renovations declined in the past few years due to elevated borrowing costs and higher costs of living. Single-family homes made up 67% of the renovation investment. And at the bottom bullet there, it talks about over $400 billion has been invested in the renovation industry in the last 5 years. And this $400 billion of investment has led to a real estate agency, RE/MAX, to conclude that the renovation investment is an underestimated driver of escalating housing values. Next slide, Sarah. This is a slide some of you may be familiar with. This is a joint some research by the CHBA themselves and Desjardins on just sentiment of the industry. What are people saying? What are participants saying in the industry? And as you can see, sentiment is has been on a downward trend. And what's caused that is lingering effects of the high interest rates, construction labor shortages, and an aging workforce paired with high building materials. Costs are some of those reasons why we're seeing that. There is some optimism, though, for the future with some of these interest rates that we heard about even today going down. Renovation prices. Kevin talked about renovation, the cost of renovation going up, and the inflation part of it. And this is some slides here. They're going to talk a little bit about that. There is some fairly new data. I'm not sure everybody's even aware of it, that StatsCan has now available, that shows and indicates a renovation price index covering 8 major renovation categories. It looks like it's going to be a useful tool for renovators to help clients anticipate and understand the cost of renovation. You can see in these slides here kind of some of what the trend lines have definitely been showing since 2017 up through to current Q2 of 2024. And Sarah will jump to the next slide to maybe just expand on that a little bit. This is the 8 categories, the big categories that are on that data set. And some of the summary points that we talked about here is following a 0.8% increase in Q1 2024, Canadian renovation prices were up 0.7% in Q2. Roofing and exterior additions led the price rises since Q2 2023, and heating and air conditioning are right behind that in Q2 2024. For the British Columbia participants, you experienced the largest quarterly price increases in the second quarter at 1.4%, and the Saskatchewan followed at 1.3%. Labor shortages, wage pressure, and population demographics were the primary drivers that caused this inflation. As Kevin also alluded to, labor shortages persist. It is a fact in the home build industry, a fact in the renovator industry. This is some research and surveys that were sent out to the builder side of the industry that had talked about, despite the slowdowns, they had the sentiment was to continue to not lay off workers, keep them in the queue for good reason, because they do believe it's going to turn around and there'll be need for these workers in the very near future. Renovation spending is increasing. As Kevin alluded to, yes, the permits are up, the values are up. Depending how you look at that, you can decipher if that is due to activity or just due to value and some of that inflation. That's reflecting of that, but the stats are, it is showing an increase over year at Q3 in 2024. There is some belief that things are starting to turn the corner. Economists expect further interest rate cuts in December, and guess what? That just happened today. So we had a half point, which is really exciting for all involved in this particular part of the industry, which should boost housing marketing activity. There's optimism for that, and there is up to 40% mortgage renewals happening in 2025 that could actually see lower rates. And depending which economists you speak to, this trend of rate reduction is expected to continue into 2025. Opportunities ahead. These lower interest rates are going to prompt increased activity, particularly in the single-family sales and construction. Renovation activity is expected to follow. And these areas of aging in place, high cost of moving, multi-generational living, and densification is going to need support to increase renovation activity. I'm going to talk to that a little bit more detail in a couple of slides down here, what that potentially means for opportunities for the renovation sector. And as we jump into opportunities, so one of the areas we've identified in our research is, which if you are not, or maybe you are already aware, that Canada's housing stock is aging. Nearly 5 million homes across Canada need major and minor repairs. This does not include homes requiring just the cosmetic renovations, and 3/4 of the stock is more than 20 years old. And a little light bulb there is 24% of homes in Canada need minor or major repairs. That's a very notable number. As Kevin also alluded to, the opportunities in green retrofits is definitely there. Some of the research we polled indicates 59% of the Canadians said they would pay extra for green improvements. And 73% of those renovating are interested in smart, sustainable, and energy-efficient technologies. So there is some growing interest in the Canadian public to pursue this. Energy efficiency renovation programs. can be complex and confusing for homeowners. Kevin listed off some of those at the beginning of the slides. This is some of the repeat of that with a few other notable ones that are available to all in the, depending what region of the country you happen to be in. That complexity, though, does create some confusion for the consumer, and it probably is an opportunity to assist homeowners in reducing the cost of efficient renovations by optimizing these grants. So becoming educated yourselves, or as a renovator or even a home builder, whatever it applies to, is a good opportunity to educate home builders that are, or home renovators that are coming to you asking about these, and helps them, reduce those costs and makes it more attractive for them to pursue. Densification is increasing. Kevin, I think you wanted to talk maybe a little bit about this one, or you just want me to just go ahead?
Here you go ahead. I can chime in.
Okay. Kevin's my color guy on this part, so he'll jump in. So densification is, again, research has found densification is increasing. Push from governments of all levels to increase housing densification is starting to take hold. Those September year-to-date conversion permit values exceeded the value of the same period in 2023. Large urban areas like Vancouver and Toronto could see more with the simplification of complex approval processes. We do know that's definitely been a bottleneck out there from what we found from the research. So these residential conversion opportunities to add housing units are growing for renovators, and is expected to continue to grow. These are some of the project announcements that we have been able to pull up. Federal Secondary Suite Program offers, Kevin talked a little bit about some of these things, homeowners up to $80,000. Ontario Renovates program is providing eligible homeowners up to $50,000. Multi-generational home renovation tax credit, Kevin talked about a little bit earlier. Municipal zoning changes, cities like Toronto, London, Barrie, and Calgary are now allowing up to 4 units per lot. BC's Bill 44 encourages multi-units near public transit, and removal of GST from purpose-built rental housing construction for 4 units or more, although that is indicating that might come to a close in the near future, but definitely exists today.
Yeah, I guess the one thing I would add to all of this, Keith, is just that work that we've been doing at the federal level to push things like tying the infrastructure investments to making sure municipalities allow multiplexes in single family zoned areas and that sort of thing, using those federal levers to do whatever we can to support densification and work against NIMBYism, because unfortunately densification and NIMBYism tend to go hand in hand. So we continue to do what we can at the federal government level, and I know our local and provincial associations are doing lots too, to just encourage, from a zoning perspective, the ability to get these projects done. And the other thing is we're finding now government has recognized the need for more financing, as we said, but also financial institutions are starting to create financing products that can better put this stuff forward. And if you caught our webinar a few weeks ago with RBC, they have a new product specifically for financing renovations to create multiplexes. So a lot of good momentum in this direction right now.
Great. So we have some long-term outlook from some of the research we've done. It's expected the Canadian investment in renovation will grow. By 2030, more people will be employed in the renovation and maintenance sector than in home construction. And then I think just a notable point on this too, the renovation expenditures are projected to grow continuously through 2023 at a rate of 2% above inflation. Some of the key drivers of renovation that I talked about a few slides ago that I wanted to get into a little bit more detail. What's driving interest in renovation? Intergenerational wealth transfers. It's estimated that at $1 trillion in the next 2 years are now occurring. The demand for luxury segment is further propping up the renovation trend, particularly in Vancouver and Toronto, where the cost of single detached home is rising. Younger populations are moving back to grandparents or parents' home and renovating. The rising cost of housing is prompting the multi-generational housing to counter escalating costs of home ownership. Suites that can provide a secondary income stream, which we all talk about and are aware of. High cost of ownership transfers of $41 billion in 2023 makes it more attractive for some individuals to renovate versus relocate. And aging in place, over 9 out of 10 aged 55 or older are saying they're going to stay in place, and further bolstering the renovate versus relocate trend. And just one more couple comments on that last slide is that between now and 2026, we've talked about the 1 trillion will move from the Canadian home baby boomers to the heirs, mostly millennials. As older Canadians live longer, even more money will stream down in the coming decades. And this Reid survey that we found among Canadian boomers who are planning to leave, 100% of their estates to their children, the average inheritance will be about $940,000. So some interesting numbers and values that will be available out there. Again, some more recent surveys that we've been able to locate. Canadian homeowners want to renovate. An interesting stat, 67% of those that were surveyed are willing to pay more from professionals they trust. 94% of them are planning to stay in their current home for the next year. 49% are planning to execute or recently complete home renovation improvements. 63% want to improve their home for aesthetic reasons and increase value. 73% are likely to invest in energy efficiency renovations. 25% say they want to live in multi-generational households, and 36% are interested in laneway housing.
That 67% stat is code for they really want to hire a Renomark renovator. That's what that actually means. So, yeah.
Yeah, definitely differentiating yourself is going to be an important component for sure. So we've got a couple closing slide here that we wanted to share from all this research, and again, kind of data heavy, but this is how we've kind of summed it up. Obviously the market is 103 billion. Aging housing stock is there happening to drive demand upgrades and major repairs. Densification is to increase, which is going to increasing housing stock through additions and conversions. Green retrofits is here. It's the consumer is interested. They want to talk about it. Strong homeowner interest in renovations from aging in place, the multi-generational living to value-added improvements, and expected growing activity from the falling interest rates and increased consumer confidence through into 2025 and beyond. The opportunities for renovators, our takeaways from this was support the clients, project planning and execution. Help them understand the true cost of renovation. Again, some of these interesting stats available there through StatsCan of the pricing, the indexes, the inflation rates, what homeowners can expect to pay. The longer they wait, the higher it goes, those kind of things, including access to the grants and helping them navigate those because they're not the easiest to get through, but they're definitely there and available. Addressing the labor shortages, I think it's between renovation and home builds, it's going to continue. It's about thinking about having the right people in place right now, focus on retention of what you do have, talent attraction and position your business as a top place to work are critical success factors. Be prepared. There is going to be increased demand for everything, all the trends lines are saying. Build capacity through training and technology. And differentiate your business through professionalism, education / Renomark and certification, right, Kevin? I think it's kind of the key takeaways there. So yeah, that's my part of the deck today. So I'm going to hand this over to Sarah.
Yeah, that's a perfect segue. I'll interject just for a second because we have a couple of questions. So your last points there on differentiating your business are exactly what Sarah's going to talk about and professionalism and training. But just getting back to a couple of the questions that came in. One was, does the secondary suite loans program apply to new homes? No, it really is about adding like renovations to existing homes. But if you mean I just bought a new house and I want to now add a secondary suite, then that doesn't count as a new house anymore. So it's not for new construction, but it is for renovation, even if it's on a reasonably newly built home. And then another question here for Keith. I can chime in on it as well, Keith. But the questions: is there talk about licensing requirements for renovators. This person's saying they recently renovated a brand new home, did a full gut on it. The house had to be reassembled to meet the standards of the original construction per the city. And this person's a licensed home builder, had no issues accomplishing it, but would be concerned about a renovation company coming into these high performance homes and not necessarily knowing how to put them back together. So back to the original question, just about, what kind of momentum is there for licensing renovators?
Yeah, so my experience, I get to actually the privilege of traveling the country, speaking to the regulatory bodies that are overseeing licensing. There definitely is some discussion, some I won't say momentum yet, but definitely on the radar. As I mentioned it earlier in the slide, there's no government is not going to be able to ignore this level of industry and this activity without taking a look at that. So I know, by the different provinces, there is definitely discussions at the licensing divisions on that. There is no definitive legislation yet in place. But I would suspect, based on what I've seen and known and followed the last 6 years, it's just a matter of time. But when that time is I don't have a projection on that yet, but it's something to keep an eye on.
Yeah, exactly. And our provincial associations have a good handle on these discussions with governments, and it's also part of the reason why things like Renomark that set up our industry to have some of their requirements ahead of time that would likely be required by these sort of renovator registration programs are sort of get everybody ahead of the curve and allow us to hit the ground running. The questions are pouring in, so maybe we'll do one or two more, Sarah, and then we'll make sure we get to your stuff. Easy one. Does the loan apply to carriage homes? The answer to that is yes. Would a new laneway home qualify under the multi-generational home renovation tax credit if it's purpose built for related seniors to age in place? That one we'd have to look into, but I'm pretty sure that would qualify. But the information is available on the CRA website, so we could take a look there as can you for these questions. But the multi-generation probably does, because laneways tend to be currently considered renovations, even though we think they should qualify for the new home tax credit. But that's another issue. And if it's for aging in place, then you can probably get some home accessibility tax credit rebates there as well, because they're stackable. So that's good. And maybe one last one here. The question is, you have some good data on renovation permit values. How does this compare to the overall number on renovations, not including repairs? Reason for this is it should show clearly how much renovation work is done without permits. We've spent a lot of time working on the underground economy, working with CRA. Some of you have been around for a while, know we had our Get It in Writing campaign. There are pretty good numbers and estimates from CRA on just exactly how much underground economy work there is being done, and we all know it's a ton. And it's another reason why, back to the question about renovator registration, and that the more registration there is, the better we're able to tackle the underground economy. And certainly part of our work on Get It in Writing and in Renomark is to encourage people to go with the builder they can trust. And thanks to Keith, we see that 67% would like to pay more with the renovator that they trust. So that's headed in the right direction, but it's definitely still a huge challenge. So with that, Sarah, over to you on all the other great things that you're championing for our renovator members across the country.
All right, thanks, Kevin. So getting right into it, you all found us today, so you are aware that we are doing specific webinars for renovators. So this latest one is part of a quarterly webinar series. What you see on your screen is exactly how to find those. So if you're not able to attend in person, we certainly keep the recording on our websites. So you can click through from the homepage there. And just a bit of a reminder of the ones that we've had so far this year. We just had a really great one about Renomark and how to use it to boost your business, and got to hear from some Renomark renovators across the country and how they're using Renomark. So that one's available, as well as several that we had that were particular to changes coming to the National Building Code, important changes that are coming for renovators, and specifically around accessibility as well. So check those out if you haven't already had an opportunity to. The other thing I wanted to highlight was a number of different publications that we have available specifically for renovators. So hot off the press is the CHBA value for renovator members. I know from the beginning we have a number of HBA staff on this call. So this is brand new. We'll have a lot of what we talked about today in the webinar, but it's a great resource for getting new renovator members into the association. So that is available on our website. We also have the Renovator Review. So hopefully all of you are getting that newsletter. This comes out every 2 months. And you can sign up yourselves right in your CHBA account. You can identify which publications you want to be on the mailing list for, or certainly reach out to any of us on the call today if you want us to get you signed up. And if you haven't already checked out, we have three manuals available. These are available for sale both on our website and on Amazon right now. And you can, we've got some bundles available too. So you save $20 if you purchase 2, $30 if you purchase all 3. So check those out. We will be updating, looking to update the builder's manual. This is something that we do every 5 years to be in line with the new code coming out. So we're working on that now, and we should have that available when the new code comes into force across the country. One thing I just did want to point out about the webinars, I skipped over it pretty quickly, but we will have those quarterly webinars happening in 2025 as well. Always looking for topics that you're interested in. So we don't have a poll question on this, but you all have access to the Q&A area on your screen. So if you have an idea for an upcoming webinar, feel free to type it in there. We get all that information, so we'll be able to check it after this webinar as well. I did want to talk a little bit about training, and I know both Kevin and Keith talked about aging in place and how important it is right now. And you see some stats on your screen. So over 8 million Canadians aged 15 plus living with a disability. There are more than 10 million Canadians that are age 60 plus. And what we know from several different data sources is that they don't want to move. They want to stay in their home for the rest of their lives. 75% of those age 60 plus, but that number goes to over 90% when you get 70. So they're not looking to necessarily buy a new home that is accessible. They are looking to stay in their home and make it accessible and make it safe for them. And so that is what our adaptive home program was created exactly for. How do you renovate a home specific to the client's needs in mind? So this is really the definitive training program. We've looked all across Canada. Some of you are aware of CAPS that's offered in the US. This is really the Canadian version of that and highlights the codes and standards that are available in Canada. It's a 2-day course. We've been offering it for a couple of years now. We had 3 virtual sessions that took place in 2024. All of them sold out. We are planning, you see on your screen, we're planning to offer at least 3 nationally in 2025. And just earlier today, we added the February dates to our website. So this is live now. If you're interested, you can go to our website under training and sign up. February 25th and 26th is going to be the next course. So you can see a little bit on your screen, everything that you can learn in that course. Once you complete the course and you've taken and passed the exam, you're now a qualified adaptive home specialist. And we have a great directory available on our website that lists all of the people who have taken the course that are our members, so that homeowners looking to do this kind of work can go and find you listed there. As well, we have a lot of resources that you can access as soon as you become a qualified adaptive home specialist. So you can use this logo on your marketing materials. We've got brochures that are ready to go, ready to print, to share with potential clients. We've got a PowerPoint presentation. So if you're doing any sort of presentation in your community, that is all ready to go about the adaptive home program. And we've got a lot of social media assets as well. So these are all things that you get as soon as you take that course. You really become part of this network of people across the country who are trained in adaptive home.
And Sarah, I'll interject. We've got a couple of questions rolling in that are relevant here. One is do we see any trend for home improvement stores doing more installed sales like the Home Depots, the Ronas of the world? And I just wanted to chime in. I think there is a little bit of a trend there, but where there's really a trend is the recognition of this aging in place market. We are having the big box stores send some of their people through just to be able to service their even do-it-yourself clientele, and we're obviously encouraging them to point those people to our adaptive home qualified members, and even some installed sales starting to go through that way. We also have I did get confirmation that the carriage houses are indeed eligible for the multi-generational tax credit, so we were correct on that one. Couple of questions specifically for you, Sarah. One is on the adaptive home course. The person's saying they've had two of their designers take the course. Do you have a segment on how to market this to our clients? And you were just starting to touch on that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we definitely have those resources that are existing that are available. Another thing that we're looking to add is to do some sort of ongoing programming for people who have taken the adaptive home course. So we would like to run a couple webinars specifically for that group as well. And that could be a great opportunity to share, hear from your peers about what they're doing to help market the opportunity. But I would definitely say to check out all of those existing pieces of collateral that we have that are ready to go to promote what you've learned right now.
Yeah, and we'll be doing more and more too. One of the things with our adaptive home program is we've wanted to be careful about marketing too much before we have enough people who have taken the course so that, there's somebody that people can contact. But certainly for our members who have already taken it, Sarah's doing a great job in rolling out marketing materials that can be used by you, and you'll see more and more coming from CHBA to market the program in general now that we have sort of that critical mass. Another question is this similar to the safer home standards? I took the CHB adaptive course, was already a certified safer home builder.
Yeah, so I'm definitely not an expert on the safer home standards. I believe it has to do with actually labeling the home, and that the home is now a safer home. We don't do home labeling with adaptive, but obviously the things that you would learn would be very similar in terms of the different things to do to make that home work for the occupant.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that we really emphasize with the adaptive home program is it's not about certifying a house. It's not about building to a standard. It's about building to the exact requirements of the individual or the people in the home and their exact needs moving forward. So it's not universal design to fit anybody and nobody. It's what are your specific requirements and needs because of your circumstance, and that's really, we think, the best way to support Canadians who are looking to age in place or who have other disabilities. Another question for you, Sarah, is of the companies that have done the adaptive home training, do you have a sense of the size of projects that they are getting because of the course?
I don't have that information yet, but it is definitely something that we're looking to get as we bring those people back together. Now that we've got kind of a full, really starting as of November of 2023, we've had 4 full sessions of the adaptive home. So we have a really good group. I think we have a little over 150 members in that directory on our website. So definitely looking to bring that group together and see what we can learn from, okay, now that you've taken the course, how has that changed your business?
Yeah. Here's an interesting question, and I'm going to ask the person if they wouldn't mind elaborating a little bit because it sounds like a great idea, but I'd like to know your thinking, which is what we consider marketing materials for secondary suites. That's a really cool thought, and I'd love to know your thoughts, or if you want to ask a little bit more and elaborate a little bit more on that. And with that, maybe I'll pass it back to you, Sarah, to keep going on Renomark, and maybe we'll hear more about marketing secondary suites in a minute.
For sure. So we've talked quite a bit about Renomark for the renovators on this webinar. You have undoubtedly received several emails from me. The Renomark program was transitioned to CHBA National to run the online verification, to run the program and to administer the online verification program earlier this year. So that's something that has been going really well. Certainly this speaks to, we all saw the number on Keith's slide, 67% of homeowners willing to pay more for someone they can trust. That's what Renomark does for you. So becoming a Renomark renovator really adds to that professionalism, the credibility, really signifies that superior quality in your workmanship. So that's what the program means. And so this first process of it transitioning to CHBA has really been about making sure that all of our members are verified. So it is a quick process. I know it sounds daunting, maybe to some. It's 2 screens. So you're going to click through 2 screens in this verification process. You're going to attest to the code of conduct. So there are 10 points of that Renomark code of conduct. You're going to upload the required documentation. So that's your contract, your warranty, your certificate of liability insurance, and you're going to sign the Renomark licensing agreement. Once you do that quick process, you are going to get access to a ton of resources to help you use Renomark to market your business. So you're going to get the logo, you're going to get a lot of social media assets, both images and videos, and just a lot of other marketing assets as well. So print, radio ads, brochures, again, those PowerPoint decks, these are all available now, ready to go. We're certainly going to be creating more in 2025 and really leaning into that code of conduct now that we know that all of our members have kind of gone through that verification process. And it's an ongoing thing. So if you're not signed up for Renomark, you can do so at any time. It's right on the CHBA website. It's going to link you to the verification. And again, it's a quick process, but you're going to get all of these assets. And we're also going to start marketing Renomark even more. So we've had great success with all of the social media channels. And we've got a ton of content going up all the time. So we will continue to do that and continue to just create more awareness of the program is really our goal going forward. A couple more slides to get through, but I do want to leave some time for questions. So one thing that's really exciting and a networking opportunity specifically for renovators is the Growth Zone community platform. So this is something that we're piloting right now with our CRC members, but should be available to all Renovator members very early in 2025. And so this is basically an online discussion board. It's specific, it's locked down to members, so it's not public, but we're going to create a renovator group. And so really an opportunity for you to sign on, to connect with your peers across the country, ask questions, exchange information, share resources, and really find solutions to whether it's a technical or a business issue that you're having. So really excited about this. As I said, CRC, that's what you see on your screen. CRC has been testing it, has started some of those discussion boards, and you should be getting a link very early in the new year to sign on to that. And it's all connected to your CHBA account. So you already have that account. It's going to be the same similar process. My last 2 slides are about Vividata. And so this is a new marketing opportunity for our members. So CHBA has a membership with Vividata. Vividata is really the leader in consumer research and insights across the country. What you see on your screen is really the stats about the study of the Canadian consumer. So this is the biggest survey that happens across Canada. More than 52,000 respondents. That's a huge number. And we're able to get really detailed information through this membership. And how it's going to be beneficial to you is that we have renovation reports that we can available for, I'm going to say most HBAs. So we know that some of our smaller HBAs, some of our more remote HBAs, It's a challenge, but we're happy to work with you and make sure we can deliver information. So what you will get in that renovation report is a little bit of what you see on your screen. So again, this is specific to your market. You're going to know the size of the renovation market in your area. You're going to know the audience. You're going to know the type, their demographic profile, who's done renovations in the past 2 years with a contractor, who says they're going to do renovations in the next 12 months. Really specific data about those two groups of people, the types of renovations that they've done, what type of media they're consuming, what type of content they're consuming on those different media channels. And some clues and insights on how to reach them. So the charts that you're seeing on your screen are just an example, but this is some of the data that we were able to deliver to the Renovator Council in Toronto. So, what type of renovations are people doing, and specifically, what are they doing with contractors? Because that's really important. We're not necessarily trying to target those DIYers, but people who want to do renovations and who are looking to do it with a contractor. And then also you see there at the bottom, really specific media. So if you want to do some advertising, whether you're an HBA or whether you're a renovator, this is where you should be. The newspapers, the magazines, we've got this for digital media as well. We just couldn't show it all on the screen. So if you're a member, reach out to your HBA. If you're an HBA, get in touch with me and we will figure out how we get this information to you in 2025. That's it for me.
Perfect. All right, and we're running up against the end of the hour. I'll remind people that this will be available online if anybody has to drop off, but we will finish off some of these last questions that have rolled in. The person who is asking the question about the safer standards and is obviously familiar with that program has posted back that that standard allows the home to become safe aging in place environment for any person with any disabilities. I'll say that's great. Like certainly in our experience designing the adaptive home program and working with the occupational therapist, we know that there are certain disabilities that conflict with one another depending on how you want to. One might be not good. One modification might not be good for another. But fair enough. If you find that the safer home standard is great, then that's excellent. In terms of a couple of questions here on adaptive home market and making it profitable, just around are the jobs small? Is it mostly sort of fixed income customers with limited income? And another person commenting similarly from BC after taking the program, they found it was not a money maker for the small jobs, but it did allow them to integrate some of the standards into the larger renovations. So, yeah, do you have a comment on that, Sarah?
Yeah, I mean, I would say that the information that we're seeing, it's all pointing to it's going to become more and more of the norm. So I would say it isn't necessarily to think about it as this is a whole business, but this certainly adds to your business. It adds to what you can do. And I know, even from some of the renovators on our CRC, people are thinking about this even well ahead, so if some of our custom home builders, you're building for someone in their 30s, but they're going through this with their parents, they're already thinking about it. And so what you're learning in that adaptive home course lets you build this into your business model. Again, not specifically to only target aging in place, but is a really value add for you, I would say.
Yeah, and I would just add, obviously, for many of our renovators who don't want the smaller jobs, obviously you weed those out. But in many instances, some of the cases we hear are, somebody's stuck in a hospital and actually can't come home because they have zero access and they need a bedroom on the ground floor and wider door to be able to accommodate the wheelchair and that. And so those instances, yeah, it would be a bigger job. So yeah, it really comes down to you could be a specialist in the area and then you're probably going to want to be selective on the types of jobs that you take up. A couple of other things. One of them is about educating the public on the various needs that can be accommodated through secondary suites and potentially position Renomark members as uniquely positioned to understand codes and policies. Could base some training that could be available to folks on that, and also educate the public on secondary suites and how they could be accommodated in finance. So some good ideas there. Do you want to comment a little further on that, Sarah?
Yeah, I mean, I would say, definitely some of the things that we're going to be doing is certainly trying to raise the profile of Renomark. That's certainly one of the points of this Vivid data, is that we want to be selective in how we do that, because we know that not us, not our HBAs, probably not our individual renovation companies have a lot of marketing dollars. So it's about how do we be as smart as we can with those marketing dollars. So definitely going to increase the awareness of Renomark. I think in terms of secondary suites, I mean, that's definitely, if it's come up several times here, if it's something that's a lot of interest, we're happy to create that. So if it's just sort of creating an easy one pager that you can leave with homeowners, like that's something that we could do. If there's interest in that, we can definitely do that, and try to just help you educate your clients on what different grants and loans are available.
Great. Yeah, and maybe one last one here, unless another comes in while we're responding to it, which is our talk about 67% of people wanting to are willing to pay a little bit more if they have a trusted renovator. But in some markets, Renomark isn't known really at all at this point. And I'll start off, and you can add, Sarah. But yeah, absolutely. I mean, we definitely have a lot to do to grow the brand in different parts of the country. Um, people around the Renovator Council have heard me say this before, the number one rule to marketing your service is fix your service. And so one of the things that we really wanted to do was get this verification in place so that we knew that everybody who was, part of the Renomark program had all of the things, right? And so we're just closing that up now, and I think we're really looking forward to helping to grow that brand in places where it hasn't been much of a presence yet, and that'll be a collaboration between us at national, local, and provincial associations who are interested, especially local, and then certainly the members. Sarah's got a lot of great stuff that members can provide to promote their own businesses. And people might not come to you because of Renomark yet, but hopefully the Renomark gives them confidence when they do get to you that this is a renovator that really knows what they're doing. So any other last words for you, Sarah, on that, or anything else?
I mean, I would just add to your point there, is that it's really upon all of us to promote it. So yes, there are things we can do nationally. There's things we can do at the local level, but that's why we really wanted to make those marketing assets available to the members themselves. So getting it on your signs that are in people's yards, getting it on your trucks, getting it on your website, any of your information sheets that you're leaving behind, the more you can use that logo and explain what it is and explain what it means, the more people are going to start to recognize it, and then they're going to start asking for it. So we're building.
Yeah, perfect. Keith, thanks a lot for joining us today. Your subject matter resulted in a lot of good conversation. Any last words from you?
No, thanks, Kevin. Thanks for having me as well, Sarah. Yeah, everything you guys are, I've been listening to all the education discussion. Of course, that's one of my areas of interest, and can't agree with you guys more. I think, the other things that are out there that people need to think about, codes are changing. Renovation is going to be part of that. To be, considered a validated renovator or someone that has that ability and training, I think a lot of that's going to start taking care of itself as soon as well, too. So I definitely, support you guys on the whole idea of some kind of competency established with the renovators that they can prove to consumers that they have it. So great work there. And thanks for everybody having me today. Appreciate it.
Yeah, it's a good point, Keith. There's a whole section now coming on the National Building Code on alterations to existing buildings, which is going to affect renovations as well. So we're heavily engaged in that. We didn't talk about code stuff today, but you're right, Keith. There's a whole education side to that too. So hopefully, lots of exciting stuff coming to support our renovator members. So with that, I will say thanks again to Keith and Sarah for the webinar today and everybody who joined us. Hopefully you found it informative, and we will continue to try and roll it more and more to support our renovator members to build their businesses and be successful. So thanks again for joining us, and we'll look forward to seeing you all again soon.